Hello, welcome to No Prize Podcast. I am the professor. He's Lucas, and we are ready to talk comics. Well, you know what? Maybe we're not ready to talk Marvel
or
comics
or,
because,
or, or or whatever passes for comics these days. Good lord.
well, you know what? There is so much great stuff happening on Disney Plus now. We're going to be, we're going to talk more about, I think, what's going on over there than what's going on in the comic book universe right now. But we're still going to touch on some of these comics because there's still some interesting stuff going on. I just think that the Disney Plus stuff is way more interesting right now. How are you, Lucas? How have you been?
Beautiful, still surviving, man. We're just so close to getting the vaccination, and hopefully getting to go out to the comic book stores like I want to, getting to all the comic book conventions that I want to. I can't wait, man. How about yourself, Professor?
I'm doing good. It's weird because I just started reading, and this is totally not Marvel, but I just started reading Dick Tracy because
Ooh.
I'm a big comic strip fan from back in the day, but I've never read all the old stuff. And then and I hate name dropping. Well, no, I love name dropping, but um when I interviewed Don McGregor last year, Don's big influences to get him into writing comics was Dick Tracy, and I had put it on my radar, and was like, hey, maybe check out some collected Dick Tracy editions. So I realized that IDW. Probably about 10 years ago, started putting out these hardcover collections of Dick Tracy books, and so I bought the first few volumes to kind of go through it, and I really love it, and because Chester Gould invented a lot of the procedural stuff that you see today in TV, like detective stuff and
Yeah.
finding clues and all that stuff. Like, he invented all that stuff. So when you're reading like Dick Tracy's comic strip, you're like reading that for like the first time, and and I was just like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. It doesn't really stand up socially
Oh, of
to
course not.
I mean,
Of course not.
you're reading stuff from like the 19th early 1930s, so there's a lot of, let's just put kids in danger, let's smack around the women, or treat them like window
Yeah.
dressing. And they do, people of color are portrayed as they were portrayed back then. So you know uh it is, you kind of have to know that going in, but
Well,
for the
yeah. I mean, come on now. The next Marvel, one of the next Marvel movies for Shang Chi. The villain is who? The Mandarin, right? That's not
is
very
oh yeah, that's right.
yeah, that's not very politically correct.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about that later, but the this just almost the stereotypes, almost, right? And in comics, it's almost, or for years it had been like forgiven. That, hey, it's just what we do in comics. It's just the way we've always done it. um and now, really, it is kind of, you kind of really got to distance yourself and kind of change what it is you're doing,
Right.
but
Yeah.
anyway, let's jump into WandaVision, because we've got episode 5 and 6 now, and I mean, I'm gonna spoil it for everybody, but you know the, there are big things happening in every episode now, and from where we had, when we talked about the first 2 episodes, and how, slow it started, and kind of like that slow burn, they're setting it up. Now it's cranking on all cylinders, and it is like a train running downhill and the brakes just came off. And I'm like, there's 3 episodes left. I heard a rumor that they actually filmed a hidden 10th episode. Did you hear that?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would
That's
not be surprised. Sounds like
apparently,
something heavy that they would do.
apparently in some of the media, they've when they released cast lists for things, they had listed some people as cast members in an episode 10. And I don't
Mm.
know if that, of course it might be a typo, right? But as you're watching that show, don't you think that maybe there might be a surprise episode 10 if you think there's 9 and then all of a sudden there's on the back end there's something weird?
Oh, there's always been something weird for the last few episodes, right? Where they're not going to be able to explain everything, and then they've also got to push off everything to explain everything going to Phase 4 forward. So I'm down for it. If they want to add more episodes, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
They just can't be. I mean, come on, you're Disney Plus. It's not like they're money grabbing. They've already either got my money or they don't right now at this point.
So let's first of all let's pat ourselves on the back because when we were talking about the first 4 episodes and we were talking about Wanda bringing the mutants in to the the this universe, and now we know that that's happening, right? Because at
Hmm.
the end of episode 5 we have Evan Peters reprising his role as Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, and where people were basically thinking that this might be some kind of stunt casting, and there were a lot of rumors on the internet about, oh, maybe he's just a Westview citizen that Wanda has appropriated to play Pietro. And no, that was kind of thrown to the wayside if you listen to the audio for the blind. If you listen to that, the door opens and they even says the person that's narrating the show says it's the X Men universe's version of Pietro, of
Yeah.
Quicksilver.
Hmm.
So and then of course watching episode 6 they kind of they even explain that even more, um, because Wanda's wondering why Pietro looks different. So it's really really interesting what they're doing. So just kind of what did you think about episode 5? I know you're kind of not done with episode 6, even though we're probably going to spoil it for you. But
Well, thanks for asking. I think it was like the last time that we actually talked that I was making a big who to do about one of the previous movies. Let's see if I can pull that up here. Oh, it's not working for me. Let's see. But there's what's the name of the movie? The movie is called something Age of Thunder. Um, and on it, here we go. Excuse me, Thor: The Dark World.
oh yeah,
Right.
I think you showed that before.
Hmm. And all of it is now coming into place. It's all coming center marked into this whole WandaVision thing. Now, here's the thing. In episode number 5, what you got to do is look very closely because Monica Rambeau, she's actually looking at a chalkboard. Actually, it's not a chalkboard, an erase board.
Hmm.
And there are several things on this board that are on her board. The thing that caught my eye, even crazier than that, was this thing right here. I don't know if you can see what I'm trying to highlight there. Oh,
Uh,
wait. There we go.
yep.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. So that thing right there is the nexus of all realities. So once a planet or thing passes through that thing, um, it goes into a totally different universe. So where did we first see this thing happen? In the Avengers. Well, actually, I think what we saw was in the Avengers when they went back into the past to go and get the Infinity Stones. I think what happened was when they came back, they didn't actually come back to their own universe. They came back to a different universe. And that's actually relayed by this stuff right here. And even Dr. Banner says, hey, when you go back into your past, you can't come back to your normal reality. You're going back to a different reality. And he says it in plain English. He says it plainly, but it
Hmm.
doesn't really make sense because if you're talking about uh, time travel, that doesn't make sense. But it only makes sense if you're talking about going from one reality to the next. So I think that's what's happening here is when they came back, they didn't just come back and oh boom, now you've got a different Pietro, right? This Pietro and different other characters that are in this thing, they're different. They're from a different universe, and everybody knows that these people don't freaking belong. I think that's what's going on, and I've seen um, parts of episode 6 where he understands that he doesn't really belong in this whole deal.
Hmm.
But I think that's actually what's happening. So it's going to be interesting to see how they start matching this thing up and where it's coming off because she shouldn't be able to bring in somebody from a reality that she doesn't even know.
Well, that's and that brings up part of the conversation that Wanda and Pietro had in episode 6, where they were sitting at in the town square, and you know, Pietro actually is admiring what Wanda had been able to do because first he starts off with where'd all the kids come from, you know, because now they're all out there trick or treating. In last episode, if you remember, Vision said, "Where are all the kids? There are no kids here." And now in the next episode, there's just tons of kids running around everywhere, and then so Pietro is like, how, this. I'm impressed. He was like, "I'm impressed with your ability to be able to control all these people," and he says, uh, it's a lot better than giving people nightmares and having red wiggly woos come out of your hands. And then he says, "How did you even do all this?" And she just looks at him and she's like, "I don't know how I did it."
Hmm.
So that's what I kind of think is interesting because maybe she's not doing this all by herself, right?
Right.
And there were a couple of tongue-in-cheek jokes that I really enjoyed and I think that was for the hardcore Marvel fans. And we've talked about Tommy and Billy before, and when they were going trick or treating, and Pietro yells to them, "Raise hell, demon spawn!" And I was like, "Oh, hey, that's funny because they are demon spawn." But I mean, I don't know if they're actually demon spawn, but maybe that's kind of what they're driving at in the show.
Right.
The I thought
Yeah.
that the 5th episode, very very good with they played with aging the kids up twice in the show, realizing that Wanda can't control children, or she can't really control Vision, right? Where Vision said, "You can't control me," she's like, "Can't I?" Maybe she just chooses not to. But she obviously can't control Tommy and Billy. Tommy and Billy are totally wild cards, and I think that's probably going to come out to maybe bite her in the ass towards the end of the show. But yeah, there's some amazing things going on. And we see towards the end of episode 6 where Vision actually goes through the barrier. Did you get to that part?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Should I stop talking?
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
So Vision goes through the barrier, and they did the same thing in previous episode where when Wanda went through the barrier and they had the soldiers with the guns ready, so they knew he was coming out. They had been tracking Vision, so they knew he was at the edge of the border. He comes through. He instantly collapses and starts decaying. Like he starts falling apart, and his pieces are like getting sucked back into Westview. Now Darcy is like right at the edge, and she's screaming like, "Why aren't you helping him? He's dying." They capture Darcy and handcuff her to the truck, so she can't go anywhere. And then now then that's when you realize that Tommy and Billy's powers have awoken, and it's Speed and Wiccan. And Billy hears Vision yelling, "Help me! There are people inside that need help." And Billy hears that, and so now Billy knows that Vision is in trouble, runs and finds Wanda, and then Wanda, who had lost track of Vision, so that was another thing. I was like, oh, why doesn't she know where he is at all times? If she's controlling everybody and she's just totally lost track of Vision for the entire episode, she didn't know where he was. He was wandering around. He gets outside, and now she wakes up pretty much. She stops everything. Everybody freezes. She turns on her power, and then she starts expanding the dome.
Mm.
So now she expands the dome. All the sword agents are running like hell to get away. They're getting sucked in. Darcy gets sucked in, and now the dome expands over Vision. So now he's fine, and the only people that really make it out are Hayward, Monica, and Wu, and
Mm.
and that's how the episode ends. Just like, okay. So she just went next level, man. She just was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna take over more land. I'm just gonna make the dome bigger. You know, and it's just like, okay, well, how powerful is she, right? I mean, we already saw that one level of power where she's just controlling everybody, which you realize it's only a localized effect, because as Vision got further out from town, when he was getting to the edge of town, all the people were frozen like statues.
Yeah, I saw that. Right.
Yeah, so
And the people in Ellis and I forget what the name of the cross street was, but
the
yeah,
rolling
those were.
hill. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was looking up because of course you see Ellis. I was like, has Warren Ellis ever worked on Scarlet Witch or Vision? And no, I looked it up. I'm like, well, that's just gonna be just a weird shout out to Warren Ellis, but I don't know why. I thought they canceled Warren Ellis anyway. But
So I mean, was he
anyhow,
like one of the creators or what?
no, I don't know. No, Warren Ellis. I don't. I think I looked it up. I think that the only thing that he ever wrote that she was even in was like a mini series called Ruins, and that she was only a fringe character. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they were just throwing that out there or if it was just a coincidence. But I mean, nothing's a coincidence in the show as far as I'm concerned. So everything's there for a reason. But uh, wow, what are your thoughts going forward? What do you think we're going to see? Do you think we're going to see more mutants? Do you think? Do you think by the end of this show, she's just ripped open the fabric of reality, and that things are just going chaotic?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of stuff to settle, right? You've got
Yeah.
so
Oh,
point
they totally foreshadowed Monica getting
r-
powers, right?
right. So yeah, so they've already said, hey, you've already done it twice. Um, Another shot and something's going to happen to you. Well, that reminds me of the fact that she's actually had three aliases as the whole thing, right? She's had Captain Marvel, and she's had Photon, and I forget her other alias or whatever. So that would be three right there.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course you had the one scientist girl. I forget what her name was.
Darcy.
Darcy, right? So all the research that I showed you on the board, she's familiar with that stuff. She knows how to work that stuff. So that's what she's actually there to explain. She's not there to, because you got anybody to talk about magic and the hex, right? But
Yeah.
for her to be there, that means that they're directly pointing at that research. Um, I'm still going back to episode number 5, where at one point Monica Rambeau, they were talking there, having a discussion, and she goes, "Oh, I have a friend. I have a friend that knows exactly about that stuff. So I'm wondering if that friend is possibly that professor, or maybe somebody else. Who knows?"
Well, it's
Um,
Monica's friend, right? So if Darcy said
right.
she had a friend, then I would think that it would be him. But it's Monica who
Monica's,
says she has a friend, which makes me think that they actually might bring in Captain Marvel to make a cameo.
mm, as if they can get a hold of her. She's always busy these days.
Yeah, it's like Monica's going to be like Jimmy Olsen with a little trouble alert watch, right?
hmm the other thing is that you were talking about the demonic spawn. There's been a lot of speculation about Mephisto, that he's had some type of hand going to all this. Um, Also, Agnes, the neighbor. There's some suspicion that Agnes is possibly Agatha Harkness, who is one of my favorite
Yeah.
characters, because um, all throughout Marvel history, she's got this whole thing going on. So that would be interesting. Then you've got the Hydra thing, and The Stark Industries thing, So now the question is, if she's actually controlling all this stuff. Also, oh, don't forget, AIM is there as well. If she's controlling all this thing, why did she feel the need to create those entities to be a part of the whole world? Did she do that, or is there something else deeper that's going on there? So there's a lot of great questions that looks like they're trying to introduce and get people familiar with, um, because and I guess this is the best way to do it. The only thing is, are they losing? Are they going to lose the audience? I'm starting to see some fatigue on that, right?
Really?
Yeah. People are just not into it. They're like, okay, so
Like, get to the point?
yeah, get to the point. We can get to the Baby Yoda, and I think I talked to this before that they lost some. They lost an opportunity. They had two babies right there. Freaking, hey, let me grow along in this experience along with the babies. But instead, uh, no, they grew them up in one episode. So we'll see. I'm still down. I still find a little Easter eggs a little bit interesting, right?
I think,
But
yeah, I do think that uh, getting to the getting to the point where that's the primary thing that you're watching for is like the clues, and you're watching for the Easter eggs, instead of paying attention to the story. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like the the biggest issue for me is that there's not going to be a kind of end point. I feel like we're in the middle right now, and we're barreling towards an end point, but I don't know if there's gonna be an end point because it's gonna launch right into the Doctor Strange movie. So I don't know if they wrap everything up here, or does the show end on a cliffhanger? Which I think if the show ends on a cliffhanger, that's kind of a disservice to the viewing audience. That's the one thing that you can't do in TV. It's okay to do in a movie, like if you're gonna do Endgame because you know that that's coming. But with a WandaVision show, where I don't think we're not getting a season 2, right? This is like a mini series, and that's it.
so far, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's no, because I mean, even with the gimmick, right? You can't keep going with the sitcom aspect of it, right?
yeah,
Because
exactly.
because eventually you're going to catch up because you're doing like a decade every episode. So at the end, this is it. Because they revealed Vision's still dead, and they revealed that if he leaves the dome, he's going to die, right? They
Hey,
just did it.
hey,
So yeah, it is interesting because I think Paul Bettany is the best thing about the show, and I don't know if I'd be interested in watching just a show with Elizabeth Olsen, or even if they left Evan Peters there and had a Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver show. I'm not sure if I'd be on board without Paul Bettany as Vision. So
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah,
I might be down with that.
okay,
Because there's the whole thing. I even rewatched Ultron, Age of Ultron, to make sure I was like comprehending everything. I'm like, okay, that's okay, that's fine. But even to the full extent of Ultron, which the capabilities they could use them, they're not really using them in the they're not really using it in the TV shows thus far. And I get it, right? She's controlling the dude, so he doesn't, you know. But I don't really need Ultron in this thing. Is They didn't even like fully develop the whole love thing yet for me to care about the whole WandaVision thing yet. So but I do think it is serving its purpose in introducing some of the other characters between the Monica Rambeau, the kids that could go forward, making sure everybody remembers Quicksilver, and then these other entities, the Stark Industries, even though people are then the whole AIM, Hydra, and all that stuff. I think it's doing what it's supposed to do, um, but it's not as good as some of the stuff that Disney has put out lately.
so do you think so? Here's here's a question speculating forward, right, into Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and Hawkeye coming out. Um, we're gonna see an overall theme on mutants, right? So we get Quicksilver in this one. You're gonna see going forward more. Maybe they're introducing more mutants in Falcon and Winter Soldier. That the speculation, if you saw the trailer for Falcon and Winter Soldier, that the city right at the beginning of the trailer is actually Madripoor,
Mm.
which of course is the base of operations for Patch
Every bad guy.
slash Wolverine. And there are tons of mutant related characters running around in Madripoor, which may be introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Even if you just see them in the background, that counts, right?
Right.
So who knows? Maybe they introduce the Hand or something like that. You know. So
I mean, the thing is it too soon to start just dripping in these mutants right now? I think
no,
it
I
is.
I don't think it is. I think waiting until Phase 5 before you get any X-Men or anything at all is too far out, right? Uh, I think that you need to do something, and if it's kind of salt and peppering uh, some mutants, or even if it's whispers or rumors of their existence, because let's remember in this universe, Wanda's not a mutant, right? She got her powers from the staff,
Mm.
and they even said that a couple of episodes ago. They even said that, but the Quicksilver Pietro that we're looking at right now is a mutant,
Right.
right? So they need to kind of explain that at some point. And
Yeah.
it is super interesting, and I'm loving watching this unfold, because they have to do it. So it is, but I think that you're going to see more more rumors of mutants throughout the next 4 Disney Plus series, and then into the movies again.
Oh, good. It's about time. Fix it.
It
Get it
is,
done.
and they got to do it. They got to do it properly, right? I mean, I don't know if, like, since we already got the Pietro reveal last episode, I don't know if I want to see any more X-Men. Like, I know the thing everybody's talking about is how we want Michael Fassbender to show up as Magneto. I don't really necessarily want that. I don't want that, like, just kind of thrown in my face. Let's have us speculate and wonder about Quicksilver for a little bit before you start really kind of just saying this is what it is.
Right.
But I know that people are talking about that they want Magneto to make a show,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the one of the worst things that DC did is the whole Justice League movie, right? And it wasn't the concept; it was how they did it. So, for instance, we got a whole bunch of Batman movies, right? And then we got a whole bunch of Superman movies that nobody really cared about. Then we got one Wonder Woman movie, and then all of a sudden you throw all of them together along with Aquaman, Flash, and freaking Cyborg, right? Doesn't give me enough time to freaking care about the characters or whether they live or die or not. So you don't want to do the same thing in the MCU, right? Where you don't want to have all of a sudden a whole bunch of X-Men show up, and I haven't had enough time to process what the capabilities are, who they are, or care about whether they all die or not. Um, so doing it piece by piece like this is so much better, right? Give me a little bit of Wanda. Give me the whole understanding of, hey, she's had some stuff go down, right? She's had her brother die. She had her, I don't know what you want to call him, her
Hmm.
best vacuum buddy lover, whatever you want to freaking call him, whatever you want to refer to him as. Um, he died, right? Um, and then you got a father out there who she barely even knew, right? So she's had some bad stuff that's happened to her. Actually, according to her father and her mother, because I was watching Age of Ultron, both the father and the mother freaking died and when the building collapsed or something like that. So
Yep.
according to them, they think that their mother and father is dead, so they don't know that Magneto is actually a parent yet. So
Well, Pietro knows, right? But that what they did was in episode 6, where they realized, so even though Pietro's walking around with Evan Peters' body, he's still um, the 616 Quicksilver. It's just his mind is in a different body. Because he remembers everything from, actually, I think it's two minds, right? Because he remembers getting killed by Ultron, right? But
mhm.
then, when he's talking about, hey, when we went trick or treating, or he brings up memories that she doesn't actually remember. So it's like different, but the same. So I think that both Pietros are living in that head. So, well, it is interesting. They can't. I can't say they're contradicting themselves, right? It's because they know what they're doing. But anyhow, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll actually talk some comics. All right. I mean, I love that trailer. Why can't we have a trailer like that, Lucas?
I don't know. We're just not cool like that, man.
All right, so we'll jump into a couple of books that we're kind of looking at. We'll jump into let's look at Eternals, because that was a book that was supposed to come out months ago, right?
Yeah.
That is kind of in its second issue now. Written by Kieran Gillen, art by Asad Ribic, colors by Matthew Wilson, with letters by Clayton Cowles. So, this book, I mean, I think that I think it kind of suffers from having Thanos in it. I think Thanos has been super overexposed, but he's the natural villain, right? I mean, when you're reading this, the Eternals, who we really haven't seen in a few years, right? In Marvel, kind of, you have to reintroduce them, and that is one of the I want to say, one of the cons of this book is because Eternals has such a large cast of characters that you have to spend some time introducing them all. And they've introduced a couple of them. I think we got Icarus and Sprite in the first issue, and now you have more Icarus and Sprite. And they don't throw any of the other Eternals in here until more than halfway through the book, because the first half of this book is a big fight between Icarus and Thanos. I believe it's like they fight through space and time, right? and then they just jump right into a backstory with Icarus of him telling almost like like a legendary story, right? And that's one of the things that I think is good about the Eternals, because they throw these stories in that, even though the Eternals aren't gods, people think they are, right? They've been mistaken for gods throughout their history, which is kind of one of the cool things about the Eternals. So they did throw a story in here about this primitive tribe that comes across Icarus, and Icarus, one of these guys says, I'm gonna sit by the shore and wait for this monster to return, and then when the monster returns, I know that the god will return and protect us and fight. Anyway, where you realize, Icarus has a lifespan measuring in they're immortal. He doesn't return till like the guy's an old man grandfather, and he dies on the shore, and then he realizes that it was the grandson that he actually was supposed to meet up with. And oops. So anyway, he fights the monster, which in one page, I mean, it's a pretty impressive looking page, but they don't actually show the fight.
Yeah.
But then they jump back to Icarus and Sprite meeting the rest of the Eternals, where it's turned into a bit of a murder mystery, right? Because Zuras, the father of the Earth Eternals, is murdered, which I mean is a problem. It's problematic for me anyway, because much like the X-Men, death isn't permanent in the Eternals universe because
because they have a whole machine that just
yeah,
resurrect them all.
they just they just kind of make a new one, or resurrect them. So to me, the intrigue and the mystery is kind of lost, right? Because they're just going to bring Zuras back. And and the other thing too that I don't know if you know much about the Eternals, but they have this hive mind called the Unimind, where they all kind of join together, and when like they almost like do like this democratic vote thing, and they're all of one mind, and all the opinions kind of get together. But as they're melded, they're just like one big brain, right? So why don't they just all become a Unimind, and then they'll know who killed Zuras, right? Because they said the one person that killed Zuras was one of them.
So they should just get together and figure out who killed who.
Oh, they should get together, and then you can't hide, right? When you're in the Unimind, everybody knows what you're thinking, so they'll know that you killed him.
That's because you wouldn't be able to sell at least 6 or 7 more freaking issues.
That's kind of what I was thinking, is just like, why don't they just become the Unimind, and then that's end of the story. But you know what,
how else am I going to sell my 1 to 500 incentive variant, my $1,000 freaking book that nobody cares about?
I'm reserving my judgment for the rest of this series, because the art is really, really good. The other thing that is a little bit jarring is how well, I think we'll talk about this later, but Eternals, Eternals was created by Jack Kirby. Let's kind of get that out there, but this was created back in the mid 70s Marvel, where all the characters were white, all the gods were white, and what happens here is, and in the 80s they introduced a couple of characters of color into the Eternals, Phastos being one of them, and he's in here too. But they've pretty much diversified the rest of the cast. Cersei, who has traditionally been a white woman, is now Asian, right? Or it looks like she's Asian compared to like how they're portraying her. And then they throw in a couple of other, the Druig, who who also looks Asian, and who's the other one, Kingo. So they're diversifying the Eternals, which makes sense, right? Because they're all supposed to be like mistaken for all the gods of the pantheon. So wherever, like Norse gods, whatever, Greek gods, they're mistaken for gods wherever they go. So it makes sense that it's all across the world. So that is one of the changes that I think, and I don't know if maybe Warren Ellis did this when he did the last Eternal series, because I'm ashamed to say I didn't read it. But this seems to be more of like the all world Eternals.
We are the world. We are the world. We are the children. Right.
Now the thing, there's a couple of little things in here, right? That this story is being told by someone who we don't really know who it is, right? And sometimes like his little word, the little word boxes that he's narrating the story. It's a little jarring sometimes, because he's actually putting himself in the story, and so we don't know who it is. I figure. Now I don't know if you've noticed, but in all of his word boxes, where he's talking, the eyes are all highlighted. Whenever he comes across an eye in a word, it's always a lighter shade of blue. Um, I think that it's Isaac. I don't know if you know who Isaac is.
No
Um,
clue.
but so the Eternals have an offshoot. So and Thanos of Titan, the Eternals offshoot is on Titan with Mentor. Mentor is actually Thanos' father. Mentor is actually Zurus' brother, and they had a little disagreement or a war, and and Mentor left Earth and went to Titan, where he started his own family, and it became an offshoot of the Eternals. Now, the Earth Eternals don't look at the Titan offshoot as actually being true Eternals. Okay,
Mm.
so but Titan is run by Isaac, who is a computer mind. So he's kind of like an Ultron, right? He so Isaac runs Titan. So I kind of think it's Isaac telling the story, and the only reason I think this is because the font that they use for him, it kind of looks like almost like he's typing. Um, but all the I's are highlighted, so I think Isaac. So that's the only reason I think that. And then there's another. Well, there is one more thing where almost the last thing he says in the book is the last thing anyone needs is an overly apologetic planet. So I think that's he's
Jesus.
telling, yeah. So and Isaac is the planet Titan. So I think that's kind of a kind of tell us. Now we haven't seen Mentor or Eros. Star Fox is also a Titan, but we
Right.
have seen Thanos, right? So we know Thanos is there, and so I can see going forward that they bring those guys in, and I don't think we've ever really had kind of like an Earth Eternal and Titan team up. Um, I know that we've seen Eros in the pages of Avengers where they had an Eternal storyline. That was actually the first issue of Avengers I ever bought. Um, so that's an interesting thing that I think that they might kind of get into a little bit. But on the flip side, these are a lot of new characters that I'm not really invested in and don't really care about. I mean, I like Icarus, but a lot of Cersei's almost like a new character for me, even though she's been in the Avengers for a million years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for the
The
most part, what did you think about this book?
I didn't know what to think of this book. Like, okay, because from Eternal, the first issue, right? Like you were talking about, there was a murder mystery. I was like, okay, I got you. Okay, that way, because the best thing about murder mysteries um, is that your main detective, that means you focus in on one character, and his main purpose is to drive you to this location and to describe what's going on, to describe the politics, why you can't just freaking go through that freaking door, why you can't just talk to this person right away, what might have happened, what was the everyday life of that person. That's what the whole thing of a murder mystery is. We don't get that. We just freaking opened up page one of issue number two, and he's just slugging it out with Rick Thanos.
Yep.
Like, so I don't know what they were thinking. It feels like they had a great idea that just freaking changed midstream. Because now what you have is you got a movie that's supposed to be coming out, and you don't have a really good way to introduce who the Eternals are.
Hmm.
The most information I'm getting out of these first two issues is maybe that number one is that they can come back to life. Number two, they got this one dude, this one um, maybe bi-curious or sexually ambiguous freaking sprite running around. Um, and then number three is that they don't like Thanos. That's all I get. Right. Um, so I just don't know what to think. If as a speculator, I'm pissed. Thank God I didn't freaking buy this freaking thing. The 1 to 500. Thank goodness. And then the other big mystery, right, was supposed to be the whole Tony Robinson thing, right? Because he had a vision that there was supposed to be something regarding Tony Robinson. Didn't say who he was, what was going on, but I say, okay, you spent all these panels regarding the old man in the sea sitting by the beach waiting for the scary monster, but you didn't you didn't freaking take the time to explain more of what the heck was going on with Tony Robson, even though
Yeah.
that was the last panel.
Well, I tend to think that the people by the beach were probably his ancestors because
Yes.
he kind of looked the same. But again, they didn't really explain that, so whatever. Well, I'm gonna say it's a bit of a stretch. I thought Ribbich's art was really good, as usual. He's usually really good. That I do think that I don't know. I just feel like they either rushed the story or went in a total different direction that I think maybe they had planned to go. It seemed a little disjointed to me. The story did. So
Yes, it did.
but so I mean, bit of a stretch. If you like Ribbich's art, he's great here. So so check it out based on the art. Just maybe stick around longer for the story to see if it pans out. Maybe maybe by issue 3 they'll bring everything together. So
Sure, give Marvel more of your money for confusing the story.
what are the books? Are they $3.99 a piece or is this one $4.99?
I forget. See, it doesn't say it on there. No, it doesn't have it on. Oh, 3.99. Yep.
All
It
right.
says it up at
I
the
mean,
top.
it's $4 a book. It's I just remember back in the '80s when we could have gotten like $10 for $5. Anyway, uh, so what else we got? What else did you kind of want to speculate on or?
I don't want to speculate. I just want to trash this book. You some of my guns. What in the world? You know, so Black Panther, right? There was for those who don't know who I am, I love hating on what's been happening with Black Panther, right? It's because for the last 2 years, Black Panther, who is supposed to be the king of Wakanda, has done everything except be the king of Wakanda. Right? He's off in space. He's the general for the Avengers. No, he's running a spy agency for Wakanda, and they're spying on everybody for everything except for the purposes of Wakanda. They're just all over the place, right? They just don't know how to use this character, right? They just lost sight of it. And so what's been happening is that there's been this whole null invasion, this invasion of the symbiotes. They've invaded their Earth, and now they're making their way towards Wakanda. They've actually broken through several spots in the Wakandan wall, and then you've got the uh, Dora Milaje, and they're the ones that are trying to fight and keep the symbiotes at bay. And who is also on the field? Black Panther. Now, if you don't know anything about military tactics, or you don't care about military tactics, here's what I'm going to tell you. When Eisenhower, who was one of the great generals during World War II, or General Schwarzenegger, who was the general during the Iraqi War, or even General Mattis went to war, they didn't freaking go to the freaking field and start shooting off their freaking rifles. They sat in the rear with the freaking gear in the admin office and just watch it from afar, and then they just freaking called it in, right?
Yep.
You are the king of Wakanda. Imagine if our just past ex president, freaking Obama or freaking Trump, got on the field and decided to go to war, and freaking start shooting off. That's not going to happen. So that stuff is already freaking terrible. But I get it. He's an action hero. I get it. Okay, that's fine. You want to establish him that? Okay. If you want to have the action hero fight wars, go ahead. Got it. But here's what you don't do. You're not going to have your action hero who's all of a sudden fighting wars for some reason when he shouldn't be, all of a sudden say, you know what? I know this whole thing is turning wrong, so let me just leave the battle in the middle of the battle and go home so I can fiddle and clean my wife, my weapon. That's
Clean.
exactly what this. Yeah, he literally says, "All right, guys, you got it. I know we're losing, but you got it, and I'm leaving so I can go so I can go back home and freaking and start messing around with these weapons over here." Like what? So I can start experimenting on this freaking thing when I could have just called somebody and say, "Hey, would you mind going to the closet in the living room and pulling this out? And here's what you got to do." Um, and but who actually takes his place? His little baby sister Shuri. Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense to me, right? Some dude's trying to argue with me because I wrote an article about it. And he was like, "Oh man, you don't know, man. Freaking, uh, Black Panther. He's a freaking genius. He's the top 5 in the world. No, he's not. He's like maybe top 8. Plus, he has never won any Nobel Peace Prizes according to the Marvel Universe, right? So, plus Shuri, she's genius level herself, 17 years old, and all types of stuff. So why don't you have her in rear gear, fiddling with all the stuff, fixing stuff, you know? And that's why it's even crazier. And I don't know if this is on purpose. I
Hmm.
don't know if this is on purpose because at one point, both Shuri and some of his Dora Milaje freaking soldiers turn to him and look at him like he's crazy. Like what? Like T'Challa, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? So I'm confused, right? Because either it was planned incompetence, or they just don't they're just kind of grasping for the direction, right? And once again, if you're a Black Panther fan and you're a fan of the Tanisha Coates run, you're going to be out of position on this one because this is totally cut off. They stopped that in January of 2020, and they never freaking actually finished it. I think they're supposed to start with issue number 23 soon. Don't read that or this thinking that they're connected to each other in any way, or even connected to its own story whatsoever. But man, man,
Hmm.
this made me a whole type of other mad right now. So do not, do not, if, unless you're really desperate for something to read,
Well,
you might want to leave this one alone.
I think that's one of the dangers that you have with these event books, right? Is because you have the core book, and then they come up with so many of these. What can we do for a one shot? What can we what character that currently isn't involved can we involve and have them do something maybe cool? And I think that these like this book, especially this book, is kind of just thrown together last minute, you know. um that maybe they look at the book and they're like, oh, you know what, Black Panther hasn't done anything in King in Black, but maybe we should show that aspect of, Null, who is taking over the world, attacks Wakanda, because why wouldn't you? um yeah, I do think that you don't need to show us every facet of the Marvel universe when you're doing this event book. I don't think anybody's going to question that. Hey, if Null takes over and defeats the Avengers, which Black Panther is part of, by the way, um, you know, do you think that that anybody's going to care whether or not they show the front, the Wakandan front? you know, I don't think
So hold on. So roll it back a little bit. He's not just part of the Avengers.
he's the leader.
He's actively fighting in a tournament for the Phoenix right now.
Yeah, let's not worry about continuity because they just throw it out the freaking window. You're not supposed to. When you're looking over here, you're not supposed to look over there.
Oh no, we're gonna get continuity. We're gonna get continuity right now, right down now. Because here's the deal. That the weapon that he uses in this thing is like the power of Bast. Bast is the African god, um, that gives the Black Panther his power, Make sure the nutrients in the soil are good, make sure that he can heal and all the other stuff. Tang, good, right? So that whole thing was supposed to be a contra to the Phoenix Force. So basically, he has the ability of Bass, while at the same time, for some reason, in the Avengers book, he's fighting for the Phoenix Force as well, and the Phoenix Force wants him on their side. I don't get it. What are y'all doing? Tell me.
Well, I mean, if you want to do that, then we have Captain America, who was currently taken over by Null and running around as a Venom spawn, also with the Phoenix Force. So it's yeah, it is kind of. We could destroy Avengers all day long, and it infuriates me. But Avengers didn't come out this week, so I don't want to kill it. um, one of the other books, if you want to, I don't know if you have the graphic for the latest issue of Power Pack. I think we
I can bring it up, but let's go in alphabetical order.
oh
Excalibur. Were you able to get to Excalibur yet?
I did I
Did it
did
leave an impression on you?
it
So
no
very
it
quickly,
didn't.
right? So very quickly, uh, during X of Swords, one of the first people that died was Betsy Braddock.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, they
Now
bring
she's
her back.
back,
Yeah, of
but she's
course.
weird. She's weird,
Yeah,
and nobody knows why. Nobody knows why she's weird.
and no one
Um,
cares either, by the way.
yeah, nobody.
So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. They're like, like, hey, girl, we missed you, and we kind of we're happy that you're back and you're good and all, but we kind of need you to be doing this thing over here. So as soon as you can get well, we need you to go ahead and do this thing. Great, great, thanks, and that's it. That's basically the thing. They're trying to investigate why she's weird, a lot of loopy, but it's not. It's not. There's all type of possible explanations. Um, Saturnine, I like the fact that Saturnine was in this book. I like the fact that they didn't throw her away because they're like, hey, um, we don't like the stuff because the Krakoa guys were like, hey, we don't like the way stuff is going on, so we need to set up a meeting to go fix this. And she writes, dear Krakoa, um, I'm happy that you guys feel it's easy to write, but you have a representative to write us. That person is Captain Britain. Seeing as how I see you don't have Captain Britain, I'm going to be unable to talk to you guys. Bye. Thanks. Signed, Saturnine. Bam. I like that about her. That bureaucratic freaking feel to her. I like that. Um,
Well, what's up with the cover too? Because it looks like they're mourning who?
nobody. I don't think anybody passed away in this one.
Yeah, but I mean, they look like they're all like, regret, mourn. Like the characters in the background, like, hey, we're mourning from Krakoa, but you guys are mourning here. Um, Betsy Braddock's not dead. They actually, she's back. They should be happy, right?
Should be
I
right.
mean, even if she's weird, uh, they should be like, oh, she was dead. Now she's not. Why are we mourning? That doesn't Richter on the cover looks super beefy, doesn't he? And like super old, isn't
He
he?
does.
Isn't Richter like one of the New Mutants or something? Like he's supposed to be young.
Is that? Oh yeah, it is. Well,
Huh,
ma-
it is.
because what sells comic cover is, I guess, is people looking sad and mean. I guess.
I just
I don't know.
yeah, the cover has nothing to do with the inside of the book, and that I mean we say that a lot, but I mean that's why people put down their $3.99 is most of the time is what does the cover look like, but the cover should be reflective of what actually is happening in the book, you know. But anyway, that's the, the mutant books have been terrible, a dumpster fire for the last several months. So you know, there's no rhyme or reason. There's easily 5 too many books. You know, they need a culling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had that for a little while. We got to enjoy that, where the books that they actually had in there actually made sense for a while. And it coincided with the whole Exosword story. And now there's just too many books, too many events going on at once. And once again, I get it. I get it. You now you're on a hurried schedule. But you
Yeah.
know what? I'm not spending more money just because you got more books.
Nope.
That's just being real.
Yeah.
You
No,
know.
for sure. It's kind of sad. I thought when they came back from the pandemic that there was an uptick in quality. I think we were happy with some of the books for a while, but I do think we're rapidly getting to the point that they're really kind of just throwing stuff out there again. Um, so yeah, I mean, just to see you just brought up Exoswords. You have Exoswords, and then hey, we had one tournament. Let's have another one and have the Phoenix and Avengers because we can do it better. You know, uh, it's it's just like almost like a shared ideas, and I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Power pack.
Yeah, and I just said shared ideas. We saw this story in Runaways last year. That's really kind of the only thing I wanted to bring up. Um, you know, group of superheroes, young kid superheroes brought under their wing by what they think is a mentor, but the mentor really turns out to be the villain. Uh, you know it's silly. A lot of the same problems I had with this last issue is still sitting here. They don't know what age to portray any of these characters. You have Katie, who is a perpetual 6-year-old, so from when when she debuted in the 80s to now, but yet you can explain Alex being aged because he went away with the Future Foundation and came back 5 years older than he really is. But Lightspeed, who never went away, it should still be the same age. But and alternatively, in this own series and in this very issue, they draw her either prepubescent or they draw her with gigantic boobs. Um, and you know, they don't touch on her sexual orientation in this book, but like I said before, I think when we reviewed the second issue, they really don't know where to go with them, what to do. And this book, again, part of an event that started at the beginning of last year, the Outlawed story, that is been largely forgotten because the
Right.
books don't come out on time. You don't get Champions or Ms. Marvel or any of the other books. Miles Morales is part of this story, but there hasn't been an outlawed Miles Morales book in literally months. He's off doing his own thing already. So these books, whatever they're doing, I mean, there have been points in Marvel where they've jettisoned a storyline because it's just no one cares. No, it's gotten bad. The most recent one would be Wolverine's flaming claws, right? Totally forgotten.
I totally forgot
Oops,
that.
oops, oops. That sucked. Let's don't ever mention this again. This is
or
they
or
should
or 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 his daughter with the magical claws.
That
You forgot
also
that.
true. Also true. So, they do things that they look back on and say maybe we shouldn't have done that. Let's just put that over here and not look at it anymore. They should have done that with the Outlawed story because honestly, I don't. First of all, I don't think the books are selling enough for people to care. Nobody's talking about it, and
Right.
then you get a book like this that you're like, I mean, they did it. They did it just last year in Runaways. They did the story already,
Well,
and you know what? The same people that are reading this book read Runaways. It's
yeah.
the same fan base.
Well, I mean,
So
you
I
got
don't
an
get it.
even bigger. You got an even bigger problem right now. You've got the whole King in Black story. That would
Yeah,
be a perfect time to just scrap this outlaw stuff. Like, okay, we're gonna have a momentary moratorium on having this whole outlaw thing because we need these kids to actually help out. And then boom, freaking done. Nobody will bring it up.
yeah,
Nobody, nobody would care. Nobody cared about this anyway. So,
right,
oh man,
right. So I I feel bad. Stay away from, I would say if you see Outlawed on it, unless it's the Omega issue where they're just wrapping up the story, stay away. I mean, we all
Yeah.
know how it's going to end. We saw it in Avengers Initiative. We, you know, we saw
Yes.
it.
Yes.
We saw it before. We saw it. So,
All right.
oh yeah,
So
yeah. Talk about this issue real quick.
freaking sword number 3, right? So just a reminder of what happened in Sword, or what's been happening with Sword is, um, the Krakoa, the nation of Krakoa, they have the space program. The space program, it was a whole bunch of different mutants, and the whole thing is supposed to be that if you have a bunch of mutants with similar or add or power adjacent powers, and they use it at the same time, it's supposed to be doing better and greater things. So they get this team together for Sword. Got the security guy, got the science guy, the math guy, engineering lady, whatever, teleportal lady, and then they get together. They do this experiment. Magneto is there to oversee what's going on. They punch through this hole using carbonic particles, and they get to this weird thing that's amongst the nexus of all realities. Remember, I told you guys about that. And and Manifold, he puts his hand into this thing, and he brings this black crystal out. They never explained what the black crystal was about, but it was like, okay, cool. They're going to explain it in the next issue. What do we get in the next issue? We get this weird diatribe where he's going to this universe and that universe. They don't mention the Black Crystal again, by the way. He's just going off to this universe, this universe. He's a peeper tom on this dude in his office, man. He's taking out the girls in the bathroom, man. He's doing all types of stuff, right? It's kind of, and I get it. They're trying to explain who Manifold is. Um, got it. Great, fine, but this was not the time to do it because you left me hanging from the other issue. But then they get to the end of this issue, and then when he gets back to the Sword base, um, it's basically taken over by the symbiotes. And the person that is commanding the no symbiotes is Nate Summers, or Cable, young Cable. But he's got the hood, he's got the cool design and everything. And then that's it. That was freaking it. So you interrupted a pretty good freaking story to have me catching to break into King in Black to do this. Okay, I don't know. Did you read this,
Eh,
or did you care about it at
no,
all? Or
I know I did read it. I liked Manifold when he was first introduced in the Avengers, and then after Kirkman's run, he was largely forgotten about until he reappeared here in Sword. So I liked that he got kind of a solo issue to kind of remind everybody who he is. Not that they really ever fleshed him out before, but I think that this book, out of all the mutant books, is really kind of fills a niche that other books aren't doing, and that's kind of keeping the X-Men with a foot in the cosmic part of the universe. So I like the fact that there's you get some kind of interstellar intrigue. They kind of throw the snarks in here, if like they're running around in Guardians of the Galaxy right now. So you're kind of tying them to that story as well. The you know I hate the fact that it's a King in Black crossover, because I feel like they throw that last page in just to kind of make it the crossover, right?
right.
Um, so that's one of the things that I don't like. But other than that, I thought the book was pretty good. Um, but the crystal thing, that's also part of the crossover, right? you know, so that I didn't mind missing that part a little bit. I mean, I liked them fleshing out Manifold, and they did shout out, and acknowledge his participation in the Black Panther cosmic storyline too. So I do like that Al Ewing actually gave him a little we did get a good update on what he's up to. So I thought this was a decent book. Take out the King in Black stuff though; it wasn't needed.
Yeah. The you just mentioned the Snarks, right?
Yeah.
And I just realized something because once again, I what takes me so long to read some of these books is I gotta take my time and figure out and see if I'm right about stuff. But so the Power Pack, this is how this is how screwed up they are, right? They have been talking about the War, the Snark War. Hey, the Snarks are in trouble and everything, right? But in the meantime, you've got the Power Pack, and they brought the Power Pack back, right?
Yeah.
Um, the Power Pack, they got their powers from this alien race called the Chameleons or Chimeleons, or however you pronounce it.
Hmm.
And the enemies of the Chameleons are the Snarks. So if you're bringing back the Power Pack, that would be a perfect time to somehow introduce them into this whole Snarks world and
Hmm.
everything. That's the way I would have thought about it
Oh yeah,
instead of doing this outlaw thing.
I agree with you 100%. Except for the fact that this Power Pack book was probably written 2 years ago. You know,
Yeah,
That's a thing,
yeah,
that's they don't know what's going on. The King in Black. I'm sure the King in Black storyline was dreamt of at that point, but these books, especially like a year later, and they're still like not on a correct shipping schedule. Power Pack should have probably come out sometime over the summer last year,
right.
and we're getting this book, and then I imagine the King in Black storyline is happening when it should have been happening. So yeah, the I would, I would really like, yeah, Power Pack should totally be involved in a Snark storyline, 100%. And that they dropped the ball on that one, and especially like Power Pack only really kind of exists in their own book. I don't think we've seen Power Pack in any other book all together at the same time. So,
So, which is a
um,
shame because once again, if you're having an event, a multi-book event, at some
mhm,
point you got to think that those characters got to kind of interact, right?
yep, yep. Hey, but we get Wolverine in the next issue of Power Pack, so it's good. It's all good. All right.
Okay, all right. So let's one more book.
One more. All right. Well, do one more.
Taskmaster number 3. I don't know if you were able to get to this one yet, but
Nope.
this was
You're out. This is all you.
yeah. So this was the number one speculated book. This book, actually, it wasn't even really speculated on, but this was the number one selling book. It had a cover that was a 1 in 25 and one, or actually was maybe it was a 150, right? So it's already selling at $150 already out the gate. So if you see this one and it's just freaking sitting up there, grab it. So here's what's happening. Taskmaster, he was hired by Nick Fury to collect information and do some bad guy stuff. In the meantime, he's under suspicion of killing Maria Hill. Um, and who's on his trail is Black Widow. She's hot on his trail, trying to bring him to brush justice, or just probably just kill the dude. So instead of just hanging out in America, he's like, you know what? I'm going to take this job as long as it's anywhere but the United States. Where does it take him? It takes him to South Korea, where he's there under rules of selling some of the South Korean criminal gangs a super soldier serum, right? So they're all lining up to get the super soldier thing, and then this new guy, this South Korean Captain America called Taegu, shows up, and they're like, "All right, let's get him." And then they realize that the super soldier serum doesn't work, so they round him up. And then the real ruse is that Taskmaster actually was piggybacking on the back of Takugu. But Takugu doesn't know because Taskmaster was able to acquire some PIM particles,
Hmm.
which makes them like really, really small. So he's basically on his neck inside his neck, a little too close for comfort. But hey, that's Taskmaster for you. So Taskmaster gets there, and he's listening in on conversations between him, Taika Gu, and the Tiger Division, the South Korean Avengers Division. And he's able to get a little bit of information. But what he didn't realize is that Nick Fury gave him some faulty particles, so they don't work like they're supposed to, right? So next thing he's got the Alice in Wonderland thing going on where he's just growing up or growing out faster than he wanted to. So once he goes big, he's got to freaking run out, got to get out of the facility. But once again, hot on his trail is the Black Widow. Um, so here's the deal, man. Freaking Black Taskmaster in the last year has been what Deadpool is, in that he is funny, but he's actually entertaining.
Hmm.
Right? He's got a whole bunch of background stuff that you're like, it doesn't matter if you don't know it, but he lets you know what his deal is real quick, and then he applies it, and it makes sense. Imagine that, right? He's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I know all these moves. I know your moves because I fought you last year. So now I'm going to use it again on this person. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. Imagine that. Great stuff. I can't imagine another book that's doing as well right now as Taskmaster. I mean, it's not selling as much as it is, but that's as entertaining as Taskmaster. And don't forget, Taskmaster is also running around in the Thunderbolts book right now, and he's
Right.
just as entertaining there as well. I love him in the book. And I believe he's supposed to be in the Black Widow movie that's coming out, right? I believe
The
so.
one that was the one that was supposed to come out over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll see
poor
that
Marvel.
eventually. I think they're gonna push it back again. So we
Just
might
put
not.
it on Disney Plus.
They're not gonna
Just
do
put it
that.
on Disney Plus.
It's
Charge
like,
me $40 and I'll freaking buy it, so I don't have to go and
yeah,
sit in a COVID infested movie seat.
I would do the same thing, but I think what Marvel is looking at is that if they put it on Disney Plus, they're giving up so much edge on the box office because they want that to do $1 billion at the box office, which it's not going to do. I mean, you have to be realistic now. Even no matter when they choose on putting it up, people are going to stay away from the theaters. I see once everybody gets vaccinated that theaters might come back marginally, but I don't think they're ever going to see $1 billion box office within the next 5 or 10 years. I don't think they'll see it.
Yeah,
So
who knows, man.
yeah, we'll
Doctor,
see.
yeah, Doctor, what's his name? Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's promising that everybody's going to be able to get vaccines, no restrictions in April. So
We'll see. All right, so we're running really long, but I do want to shout out the Behind the Mask documentary that came out on Disney Plus yesterday. Excellent, excellent documentary. Whatever you do, put that thing on. It's only an hour, but they celebrate diversity in comics, but they don't celebrate it by patting themselves on the back. They do look back and shine a light on maybe the things that didn't go so well back in the 60s, 50s, 40s, from the beginning, right? So it's a great history lesson if you like your history, which I do. They talk to some great creators, some friends of our podcast, Don McGregor, Chris Priest. They talk to Roy Thomas and Chris Claremont. They talk to anybody that you might think might have an opinion about diversity in comics. They talk to. So it's great. It's a great documentary, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't watch it. So that being said, we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and hopefully, we have some really good books to talk about. And WandaVision will be a hot topic of conversation, I'm sure.
great.
All
Can't
right.
wait.
All right. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Peace.